Hello everybody, this is ASMR Facts, back with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you all 25 facts about marriage. I'm going to talk about marriage in general. And the reason why I'm talking about this is simply because I was thinking about it yesterday. And so, with marriage here in the United States, marriage is still a thing that a lot of people do. A lot of people get married, but here in the United States, there's not as much social pressure to get married like it used to be. It's now become more socially acceptable to, just remain single and live your life, compared to like back in the day when it was pretty much the norm to be married by a certain age. And if you weren't married by a certain age, you'd be looked at, kind of funny by some people. But that's not as prevalent nowadays. But, in today's society, marriage is still popular. It's just the social pressure to get married isn't there like it used to be. And I would argue that that's a good thing, because when you don't have that social pressure to get married, you're not going to be in a rush to find a partner and end up making the wrong, choice in, making the wrong, picking the wrong partner, trying to rush to get married. When you don't have that societal pressure to get married, then you'll actually have time to pick the right partner. You won't be in a rush because, I'm this age and I'm still not married. You don't really have to deal with that. Now, I'm sure within some people's families, the pressure might be on to find the right partner, but that's just not necessarily the case in many people's families like it used to be. I do think that the social aspect of it, right, when you're seeing all your friends and other family members getting married, then it's like in your mind that could cause you to say, you know what, I need to be married by their age, or I should be like them. So I think that aspect of it is still there, but the pressure by society, the societal pressure, I just think that it's not there like it used to be. And so, yeah. But here are 25 facts about marriage. Number 1, marriage exists in nearly every culture, but the rules and expectations vary widely. So yeah, nearly every culture around the world, there is a form of marriage. I believe there's places in the world that still do arranged marriages, where they pretty much pick your partner. And so I think that's still a thing in parts of the world. But of course, here in the United States, you pick your own partner that you to go on to eventually get married to. Number 2, the earliest recorded marriages date back over 4,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. I didn't know that. So marriages have been around for thousands of years. Number 3, historically, marriages were more about property, alliances, and survival than love. Now, I knew that, marriage, that is the combining of resources. At least historically it was. I mean, it actually kind of still is now, to be honest. But especially back then, it was more so about survival, resources, right? Proximity to resources. When you have two people that are married, you have more people that are able to get a property, different resources and stuff like that. Because it's not only them, it's both of their families, right? Number 4, romantic love only became a common reason for marriage in the last 200 to 300 years. Number 5, married people on average live longer than unmarried people. And I've heard that fact before, where people who are married on average live longer than unmarried people. Because I think that with married people, if you're going through some sort of stressful time or some sort of sad time, you have someone there to talk to. You have someone there to lean on emotionally during the tough times that you all go through. Because as human beings, we're going to go through individual trials and tribulations. But when you're married, there's someone there that can, help you get through that. Right. But when you're single, especially when you don't really have friends, and when you're older, if you're going through something, there's just not anybody there to really, get things off your chest like that. You don't have a spouse that you can vent to. You don't have a spouse that you can, lean on and, express yourself emotionally. And so now you're holding that all in, you're stressed out, but you just have no way of relieving that stress. And, that's part of why married people live longer, among other reasons. I think there's a whole list of reasons as to why, though. But that's one that I could think of off the top of my head. The stress factor, the emotional support factor. Number 6, marriage is linked to better physical health, including lower rates of heart disease. And I think part of that too is because when you're married, especially when you're married to someone who takes their health seriously, they can inspire the other person that doesn't really take their health seriously to go out and exercise and eat healthier. But when you're single, those are things that you have to inspire yourself to do. You don't have someone there to motivate you. And so that's the thing. So yeah, better physical health. And then it's also the stress factor, because when you're stressed out and you're married, you can, talk to your spouse about what's going on, given that the marriage itself is healthy and it's not your spouse actually stressing you out. But if it's something in the outside world that's stressing you, then, if you're married, then you can just talk to your spouse about that and just get everything off your chest. And, and then again, you can be somebody that is inspired by your partner, especially if your partner is healthy, to go out and just exercise more. So yeah, better physical health. Number 7, married individuals often have higher household wealth than single individuals. And it's pretty obvious as to why. You have two incomes, especially when say the husband and wife are two very high income earners. So the husband makes $100,000 a year. The wife makes $100,000 a year. That's $200,000 in household income. There's really not that many single people out here that are bringing in $200,000 a year. So, of course, with marriage, you're going to have a higher household wealth than a person that's single. And, that's definitely a benefit to marriage is, more purchasing power. But you got two people, so there's many people that buy a house together, but if they were single, they probably wouldn't have been able to afford that house, or among other things, right? So stuff like that. So there's definitely a benefit to, partnering up, getting married. Number 8, marriage can provide legal benefits such as tax advantages and inheritance rights. I know when you're married, you can file taxes jointly, like you and your partner, file one single tax return. But that's if you're married. I don't think you can do that when you're not married, though. Number 9, married people tend to report higher happiness, though this varies by relationship quality. Yes, it definitely does vary by relationship quality. I'm glad they put that in there, because there's many marriages out there that are not doing so well. They're failing. They're on the verge of divorce. But if it's a strong marriage, a happy marriage, there's nothing better than that, right? It's like the saying, people say, well, I'd rather be single than in a bad relationship, but I'd much rather be in a good relationship than single, right? So a strong, healthy marriage, that's like the best thing out there. Number 10, poor quality marriages are associated with worse mental and physical health than being single. And, that's what I was just talking about. If you're in a bad relationship, like, being single is way better than that, because that can truly take a huge mental and physical toll on a person. Just being in a bad relationship, staying in a bad relationship, because there's some people that don't exactly know when to leave, and they end up staying in these bad situations, and it just can get ugly pretty fast, unfortunately. Number 11, communication quality is one of the strongest predictors of marital satisfaction. Communication, talking, right? Understanding how your partner feels, right? Communication is so important when it comes to marriage. If you're not communicating in a marriage, that can lead to a poor quality marriage very quickly, right? Let's see. Number 12, financial stress is among the top causes of marital conflict, and that's something that I definitely understand. Causing marital conflict is financial issues, right? And financial issues can come from a variety of things, right? Maybe it's a spending issue, maybe it's an income issue, right? Maybe you're not making enough money, spouse not making enough money to afford the bills, or maybe it's simply, partners spending too much money on nonsense, right? Gambling, spending a bunch of money on like alcohol and stuff like that. So that type of stuff, financial issues, can cause marital conflict fast. Number 13, the average age of first marriage has steadily increased in most developed countries. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. There's just not as much societal pressure to actually get married, right? But there can be in some people that social pressure because they see all their friends and stuff getting married and stuff, and there's that, but the societal pressure where like people will look at you all weird and stuff because, oh, you're not married by this age, like what's wrong with you? I think that's kind of gone. And so you just don't have as many people getting married like that, and the average age of the first marriage is increasing in most developed countries. Number 14, divorce rates spiked in the 1970s and have generally declined since the early 2000s. I wonder why that is. I'd have to do some research on that. They spiked in the 70s and they've been on a decline, which is good. I mean, it's good that they've been on a decline. I mean, I don't want to see anybody get divorced, but I wonder what happened in the 70s. Number 15, roughly 40 to 50% of U.S. marriages are estimated to end in divorce. And I mean, that could be due to a variety of reasons. But yeah, I did hear about that, especially the 50% statistic. 50% of marriages estimated to end in divorce. But this thing says 40 to 50%. So. Number 16, second marriages have a higher divorce rate than first marriages. I actually heard about that. And I wonder, and this is just my estimation, I don't really know for sure. I didn't look up the reason as to why, but I wonder if it's because in a second marriage you have a clear idea on what you're looking for in a partner, and you can recognize more quickly that that person isn't who you're looking for. You could recognize that quicker than you could in your first marriage, and that's why the divorce rate is higher in a second marriage than in a first marriage. Yeah, I wonder if that's the case. Number 17, marriage often changes social networks, with couples spending less time with friends. And yeah, that's an unfortunate reality. Marriage does kind of change your dynamic with friends. You just don't have as much time to spend with friends anymore when you're married versus when you're single. So that's kind of naturally bound to happen. Number 18, married men tend to earn more, sometimes called the marriage wage premium. I didn't know that. I wonder why that's the case. Number 19, married women still perform more unpaid household labor on average. I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. Number 20, shared values matter more for long-term success than shared interests. Yeah, let me read that again. Shared values matter more for long-term success than shared interest. So yeah, it's a matter of, do you connect, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, right? Your value system, right? And so, yeah. Number 21, conflict resolution style predicts marriage success more than how often couples argue. That is so important, because if your conflict resolution style is just arguing and yelling and shouting and acting crazy, then yeah, that marriage isn't going to last long. But if your conflict resolution style is, just cool, calm, and collected, just talking it out, that marriage is probably going to last longer. So conflict resolution is extremely important when it comes to marriage. Number 22, marriage satisfaction often declines after children arrive, then rebounds later. Number 23, long-term marriages often rely more on commitment and companionship than passion. Number 24, legal marriage is not required for stable long-term partnerships in many societies. So you don't necessarily have to go to the government to get married like that. But I mean, you can still be in a successful long-term, partnership with someone, Number 25, the strongest predictor of a successful marriage is mutual respect. You must respect your partner, they must respect you. If the respect is lost, that marriage will not last. But that's 25 facts about marriage. I hope that you were relaxed. I do thank y'all for watching this video, and please stay tuned for more videos.